that doesn't mean anything negative on your part, but I'm just trying the technology to see if that will work. So I will go ahead and show my screen here. Hopefully you can see my presentation.
Yes.
Great. So our topic today is we're going to talk about meeting topics that members want. And this is, I mean, I don't profess to know everything, but I have been involved with local Dovia groups, with 2 of them in Oregon for, oh golly, what year is this now? For about 20 years. And did all the different roles, including, you know, president to the programs, membership, et cetera, et cetera. So I've had a lot of experience, but just in this new role, I've also been able to do a lot of research on what other groups are doing. So I wanted to get this information out to everybody, and because I know that it's all about getting those, you know, folks to come in. So our agenda for today is a little bit of housekeeping, introductions. We'll have the discussions, and then we'll talk about topics for next year, and I'd love to have your input. I'll be asking everybody else too, but we'll see what we get. And then we've got some announcements. I plan on this call going for about 60 minutes, but if we run over, that's great with me, no problem. But if folks have got to get on with their day, I totally understand that too. So just a little bit about housekeeping. If you haven't used GoToMeeting before, you know, it's such a small group, you can just keep everything as it is. Excuse me, the sound quality is great for me, and we definitely want this to be a discussion, you know, and I'm taking notes as we go. And, you know, you can use the chat box or just, you know, jump in and say something, and I'll be watching both. And I'll take notes and post this presentation with the notes on our members only side. And I'll show you where that is when it's at the end as well. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, about introductions and who's here. And Eileen, you can go in a second. Melissa, if you want to start typing in, that would be fantastic. And I've told you a little bit about myself already, and a little bit about your group. I've been a member of NOVA, which is the Northwest Oregon Volunteer Administrators Association, for almost 18 years, I think. And then a member of Mid-Valley Volunteer Managers Association. I've been a member there for about 8 years. And they both do a really nice job on program meeting topics. And I'd love to hear a little bit about what your favorite meeting topic was. My favorite meeting topic was in the Mid-Valley Volunteer Managers Group. One of our board members had a great connection with the editor of the local paper. And this paper was big enough that they were still independent. You know, they weren't connected with any of those larger chains. But the editor came in and just gave this presentation on how to get your press release or your ad in the paper, you know, in terms of recruitment, outreach, events, things like that. And I just came away with some of the best tips. And then, you know, I thought it was really a nice session. He gave a presentation. He had a lot of Q&A, and people were really specific. And the editor was super happy to answer the questions. And I just thought that was really great. I think everybody really felt connected, more connected to the community. And one of the questions I remember that he answered was, you know, how do you get a reporter to notice you? And he said, it's all about their ego. And it's all about stroking them. So his advice was, go ahead and just read the paper, follow the reporters, see what kind of stories they focus on. And after a while, you'll see a trend, and then you'll know who to approach. So if you know that someone, you know, really focuses on, you know, animals and children's stories, then, for example, for Melissa, that's the reporter she'd probably want to go after, because they love those feature stories and the really good ones that they can do to highlight a volunteer or a program. If it's a really good article, that's the kind of stuff that goes in that portfolio. And you can build a lot of investment once you make that connection with a certain reporter for as long as they're there. I'll read out Melissa's. I'm assuming you can see it too, Eileen, but I'll read it out anyway. Melissa is the Assistant Manager of Volunteer Services in Detroit Zoo in Royal Oak, Michigan. Founded a networking group about 20 years ago, have about 110 members. We meet 3 times per year, sponsor a reciprocal free admission for our volunteers, support one another. That's awesome. That's a really good sized group, Melissa. Well done. Thank you. And Eileen, do you want to go?
Hello. So I'm with the Southeastern Virginia AVA, and we are kind of in a rebuilding phase right now, and we typically have about 20 to 30 people at each meeting, which is quarterly, and then we have in between those quarterly meetings special like brown bag lunch sessions, so they only last an hour on specific topics. Some of recent speakers or topics have been, we have someone that's about to come to discuss ethics and volunteerism and volunteer management. She's a CVA, she has her CVA, so she's tying all of that in. And then we just had the Dale Carnegie group come in and talk about like managing different situations, and he gave some great tips. We had a good response from that. And then we just have had a lot of different kinds of speakers. Like we had someone who's, is this what you're looking for? I should probably ask that first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. No, this is fine.
Okay. We had someone who was previously homeless, like as a young adult, and I guess 19 and up, and just had a really difficult life with abuse and all kinds of terrible things. And now he's a rocket scientist here in NASA. And so
oh my gosh.
He shared his story and how he's very involved with volunteer efforts. Like he's on the United Way board locally. So he kind of tied in how all these different organizations have helped him and why he's giving back now. So it was more of a volunteer's perspective on things, and that was great.
That must have been such a warm and fuzzy feeling for everybody to feel so good about what they do.
Yeah, well, at first it was hugely uncomfortable because it was a terrible story. And when he brought out the positive things, then it was just like people were beaming. It was such a good redemption.
Yeah.
But at first it was not fun. So those are three that recently that come to mind. And we also host a workshop meeting, which is just an extended meeting every year. And that one this year was about getting buy-in for your volunteer program. So if your organization, we all kind of, well, many of us struggle with having support for volunteers or the volunteer program in the organizations. So it was really focused on that and diving deep into our specific issues. So those are the big
got it.
Last year.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, we'll jump right into the discussions. And actually, you kind of, I know I'm on the right track when you've already answered the questions. And how often do your members meet? We talked about that. And you have different types. And I think Eileen covered that as well. And, some of my experience has been, certainly things have, the world has changed. And over the past 20 years, it's gone from that, we always meet on the third Wednesday for lunch, blah, blah, blah. And now in Portland for NOVA, they do a quarterly, a workshop. And usually they invite, the whole community. It's not just a members only thing. But they also do happy hour networking about every 6 to 8 weeks. And, Portland is known for its beer and its bars and its, hipster scene. And there's a lot of nonprofits in the Portland area. So those are really successful. And then they also do just some lunch and learns also. So it's a combination. And they've kind of mixed it up a little bit. When I first started with that organization, they did a monthly one. And in Salem, they've also evolved into, just like both of you, they're doing, sessions quarterly that have a bigger focus, but then also the smaller monthly meetings. And they've been able to, again, because Salem is one of those towns that is, it's a larger town, it's Oregon state capital, but it's small enough still where a lot of people know each other. So in the nonprofit world, there's a lot of folks that are connected and they can call upon people in the community to come and present. And I always think it's a real plus when you can get someone from outside of the volunteer management community to come in and talk to your group. But the biggest key is always make sure that person knows who they're talking to. It's happened more than once that a speaker has come in and despite even being briefed on, okay, we are a group of people who manage volunteer programs. is that that person gets in their head and then they spend 45 minutes talking about how great it is, how great volunteerism is, and everybody, you know, the eye rolls start after about 5 minutes, and you're like, oh no, I'm so sorry. You know, so that's a big key, I think, is really important to make sure that person is really briefed on, you know, exactly what your group is and what you do, because they hear volunteers and they make that assumption sometimes. So I did do some survey of our Dovia members, and I hadn't gotten a lot of responses. We can go back in and peek at the survey really quick and see if anything else came up. But some of the other questions I wanted to ask of the group is, and again, I'm documenting all this too so we could share it with everybody. Do you survey your members to pick the topics, or do you have a committee that chooses them? Melissa, do you want to type away? And Eileen, do you have some input?
Yes, we do survey, and I would say it's not all that successful because it's very general. So I mean, it reinforces that we're on the right track, but not much more than that.
Yeah, and definitely that's been my experience too. Is that people, you know, I'll just be. I mean, I'm kind of not a blunt person, but I like to tell it how it is. Is that it's been my experience is most of the time members don't really care. They just want you to handle it. And if they like it, they'll come.
Yeah.
But certainly it is about picking topics that are, you know, interesting and relevant. And Melissa says, our group has not yet moved into having presenters. All members give agenda items for each meeting. This gives us a jumping off point to start talking. So it's really more just like a networking, current events, table topics kind of thing, that's kind of cool because it could be really organic that way. And then, you know, whatever the issue is, because the world is changing so quickly. And I've got a topic to talk about in a few slides, which, you know, 5 years ago, we probably never would have dreamed it would have been a topic, but it was. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Okay, great. And you know what? Then there's nothing wrong with that either. Definitely, it's been my experience to do both, to have a survey and a committee. But sometimes things also just fall into your lap too, as well. As far as you see a speaker somewhere else and you talk to them and they'll come to your group, you know, that's always good too. And then I'm wondering, do you get feedback afterwards? Do you do any formal evaluations? Again, you know, I love surveys. I try to make it a point to answer every single survey I can. But I know for the most part, you know, that survey response can be really low. And then I'm wondering if, okay, and Melissa says our group is very informal, no membership dues, no officers, just me. And just wondering if you plan on a variety of skill levels. And it's been my experience that at any given time, you know, a third of the people at the meeting are going to usually have less than 6 months experience, or they're AmeriCorps, who have just come in, oh, I'm going to run the volunteer program as an AmeriCorps member. How do you recruit volunteers? Okay, great. Here, come to this meeting. And so I'm wondering what you guys do.
So you're asking if we plan on a variety of skill levels to choose the topics? Is that right?
Yeah. So like, for example, at NOVA in Portland, you know, because they did one once a month, they would usually break it up. About a third of them would be really focused on that new volunteer manager. So focus on the R's, recruitment, retention, recognition. And then there'd be ones that would be of like professional development topics. So like that ethics piece, or talking about the CVA, things like that. And then the other ones were a little more on the advanced level, or, you know, if there was something that was, you know, current or topical for the area.
This is Eileen, and we actually, all of our feedback has been to focus on more advanced, because most of our members and people that consistently come know the basics. And then we'll have, like Melissa said, we'll have like table topic meetings, which I totally forgot to mention, where we'll just talk about whatever's going on, and that's usually when we get into recruitment. And we keep a list of like resources for the members of like all the websites you might want to post to, or, you know, volunteer recruitment, things like that. So we more keep like a list of resources, and then if somebody has specific questions or help needed, then they would just call a board member. But we really try and focus on the advanced things, which is way, way harder to find speakers for, I've found.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But here's a definite tip, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because the interesting thing I think about advanced is if you put that in the title, it's been my experience that more people show up, because for that very reason. People that are usually part of a networking group come because they want to learn something they don't already know. And anytime you put advanced in a title or can work that in, if you don't already, I would say try it and see. And I just would bet you dollars to donuts, as they say, that you would have more people come. And another interesting thing, when I was the chair of a national conference in Portland in 2008, and we decided to call it, part of the title did involve that advanced piece. And we had, number one, great turnout, over 300 people come, and not from just the Portland area, but number two, we had a very high percentage of men come. And we know our field is really dominated by women, but when we had that advanced title in there, it was really interesting. I've consistently seen that on any topic that has anything advanced.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, so really try it.
Good. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Hopefully that's worth the cost of admission, right?
Yeah.
And I like Melissa's note here. Our members are encouraged to reach out to each other between meetings. They might hear someone talk about something in the meeting and they want more advice. So yeah, absolutely. And it really is about that, that silo, because often in your agency, you may be the only person that does what you do. And this is kind of my mantra when I try to explain to people, what a person who manages volunteers and why a professional organization like Alive or a local Dovia are so important, because you're the only person in the organization that does what you do, and no one else really understands it. They just know that you work miracles all the time, and they think that that's normal. But in our world, it's nice to be able to pick up the phone or send an email to somebody and, have your 5 minutes of angst and, emoting, and then being able to talk to somebody, help me figure this out. You don't have to start from ground level to explain all this background stuff, that you can just reach out. Yeah, I like Eileen's. Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah, nobody gets it. But someday I'm going to find the perfect T-shirt slogan, and we'll make a lot of money selling those T-shirts for Alive. So I started just kind of gathering a list of meeting topics. And again, I'll be sharing this with everybody, but these are some, I don't want to say typical, but these are common topics that I've seen. I've done a little bit of research on Dovia websites nationally in the past couple of months, and just from my professional experience too. They kind of fall around all of these topics. So, and of course, there's those R's at the very beginning. Those are always popular too. And let's see, I'm just going to, record management software comes up a lot. Yeah, absolutely, Melissa. And I just would love to have you go through this list, and if you've got questions, I can explain what they mean a little bit more. Hopefully they are pretty self-explanatory, but if I'd love to be able to add to this list too, if there are other topics that you've covered that haven't been here, that aren't on this list. Oh, evaluating as individual volunteers. Thank you. I'm just going to, oops, I'm going to jump right in here and just, let's see, go back. And I'm just going to add that right in. Melissa, is this a topic that you've talked about, or is this something that you think that your group would be interested in? And there are certainly lots of great models out there too. I know that at the last volunteer management real program that I did, I managed the statewide long-term care ombudsman program for Oregon for about 7 years, and I was always advocating for individual evaluations for our volunteers, and the staff were so against it. They were just really worried about the time it would take, and I tried to explain to them that the time that they would take would really pay off in less time they'd have to do follow-up and training. But they were always just terrified of it. And Melissa says, we've talked about it, but many of us struggle with developing a system, especially when you have no staff to do it. Yeah, absolutely. And it is all about that. I'm going to add that just down.
I love that Enneagram workshop. We're thinking about doing that next year. So I think a lot of our members have no idea what it is. So that's almost a bonus. Like, they're kind of excited to learn something new.
Oh, that's great. And Nova is doing that. I took that right off their site.
Oh, really?
So that's something, yeah, you might want to contact them. And I'll put it in the chat box so you can see it. It's nova.org. And yeah, that would be, yeah, I'm sure they'd be happy to share, how they did that and what they learned. And that's the other thing too, is I think that most groups are really happy to share, what they've done. As we've looked at the rest of this list, is there anything else that's come up that's not on here?
That's a pretty good list.
Oh, dismissing a volunteer. Oh my gosh, yes. I think we've all got our heartbreaking story having to do that. Oh, and I was just thinking about that, the sexual harassment one today too, Melissa. And I was thinking, I have a very good friend who used to manage a hospice program in the Portland area. And she was talking about her husband. And she was like, well, I actually met him when I was a volunteer manager. And so it turned out they've been happily married for like 15 years. They met when she worked for an AIDS organization, and they did this big bicycle ride, and that's how she met him. She was a volunteer manager. He was a volunteer. So that ended well, but definitely I was just thinking about that as a very good one.
I'm not sure if you have this, but we've had people interested in some topic about like working with business partners. And like if you were to do, generally, I believe in reference to like a day of service, how like Starbucks has a your program, so things like that.
Right. Great. And that also leads to another one that is on here is that whole term of, I'm not going to call it community super, but I'm going to court-ordered service. The continuum of volunteer to dorm. Oh, that's a great topic. Continuum. Okay, it's only 9:30 here. I'm going to use my spell check and thank you, and have some more coffee while I get that down. These are some other great ideas. And I'm going to put this down, and I'll come back to this topic too, managing large groups versus small groups. And there's always, I think, learning about interns is always good too. I think I may have that on the previous page, but it's always frustrating when someone brings in an intern. Yeah, and Melissa's putting that too. Ooh, and another good one too. This is how I know Melissa is very experienced, because she's probably experienced all these issues. And I think that the whole aging in place is really important. As there's so many boomers out there volunteering, and as they age out, or those people who are still in their 70s and beyond, and can be a little resistant to change, I think that's always a great topic. So wonderful ideas. Thank you, Melissa.
I don't know if this is on here. I didn't see it, but we had one whole meeting dedicated to different members going through their like onboarding or orientation process. So and so, like, for example, one of our big groups, Nauticus, which is a huge naval ship, they have like a very structured program with videos and all kinds of things and online training you have to do, whereas other smaller groups, you know, have much less. So it's great to see the different groups and how they do things.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Jim, I'm sorry there's not more people on the call, because this is just a fantastic list and great brainstorming. So thank you, everybody. I guess the good news is that you guys kind of can make notes of these first and pick these topics for next time before anybody else gets to see them. Let's see. Let's stop right here. Let me save this work. And just bear with me here for a moment while I go into our website here and log in. And let me look at the survey that I sent to our members and see if there were any other responses that had come in. This is the administrative side. Go into the members only side, it won't look like this. So any other? I had a couple people email me, but yeah, nobody responded to the survey. I'm curious if either of you received the email asking you to complete the survey?
I didn't see one, but I registered just before I got on.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm going to have to make a note to kind of follow up. Sometimes when I send bulk emails, they don't go through, and I think, you know, just spam filters are so much more sophisticated. That's important that we do that. Okay. Any other meeting topics that you can think of? We're doing well on time here, but we can always come back to this. And I wanted to just move on to the next slide and talk a little bit about two topics that were ones that I had not seen, and it's the Dallas Sylvia in August. Of course, they had a topic about dealing with an active shooter. And especially after, you know, what happened in Dallas with the shooting of the police officers, it was really a timely topic. I checked in with them a little bit, and it was, you know, a very sobering topic. Everybody, they had really good turnout because everybody was really interested, but it was also a very scary thing, you know, and they had the local police, of course, come and talk about it, and they talked a little bit about risk management issues. But again, that might be a topic in terms of, and I'll add this back into the list as well as just general, you know, does your volunteer program have an emergency plan? You know, is there like, are you in a place where you might need to use a safe word at an event? What about if, you know, something terrible or, you know, there's some type of weather emergency or earthquake or something that happens. And then this other one is also from NOVA, when it talks about inspiring servant leadership and personal growth while working with non-leaders. And I think the thing that struck me was this servant leadership. And, you know, that there isn't, and that's a topic that we haven't seen very much either, is dealing with faith-based communities. And maybe that's kind of a given, but I certainly think that within certain faith communities, you know, their ethic for volunteerism is very high. And, you know, are we missing out on tapping into that as volunteer managers? Or are there, you know, things that we definitely need to watch out for? So do we need to make sure there's a policy in place that, you know, if we're tapping into faith-based communities to do certain outreach, that there's a policy in place about proselytizing, and where are the boundaries for those sort of things. Or if we're a faith-based organization, when we're looking at working with those outside communities or volunteers, are there roles or requirements for people who are not of your faith-based community? Do you still want them as a volunteer in the program? That it could be a really delicate subject, but I think it's also very interesting. And several of these, of course, could also be, looped in with other groups as well. I'm going to make these notes real quick. So I've got more, let's see, I'm going to go on to my next slide, and we can come back to that discussion in a few minutes if you like. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, but with a small group, that's kind of to be expected as well. These are, I kind of went through and gleaned through the past 4 years, the topics that we've presented for our group roundtable sessions. And looking at this list, I wondered if there are topics that really interest you, because we're planning for next year, and I'd like to get these topics out and on the calendar before the end of the year. And we'd just love to have your input and discussion, and especially if you have another idea on the way that Alive can help. Social media to manage your group. Okay, thank you. And what I've noticed is there's a lot of groups out there who don't have a web page, they just use a Facebook page, which with all the things that Facebook can do now, that's kind of getting to be a lot easier thing to do and kind of a no-brainer. And then, one of the other things that Alive is striving for next year too is to be able to work with our group members and helping revitalize those groups. So, between our board members and myself, is there coaching that we could do for your leadership team? Are there ways that we can lend support? So, for example, if your group doesn't have a web page or a Facebook page, we'd be happy to do a web page for you, that's hosted on our site. And it would just link through to a contact person in your agency, or just that continued camaraderie of these groups. We're also looking at developing a bank of things like these meeting topics, like we've talked about today, but also bylaws and leadership structures and things like that. Oh, great, Melissa, if you would like to contact me, and I'll put my email address in here, and it's at the end of the slide too. Let's talk about that. And I happen to know that my travels will be taking me in your area later on in June, July-ish. So maybe we could even meet in person. I would love that. I'd love to even meet with your group if that's possible. Eileen, is there anything else that you see that you like?
Well, we just participated in the marketing and recruitment for more members. It was
good.
Really, really good. Quite good.
You.
I was keeping that. The social media manager group is great. I mean, all of these really are. As far as how Alive can help, I think that maybe board development would be helpful or something along those lines. It seems with everybody that's on the board, and this goes for a couple that we've had in our state, different groups. In the day-to-day work that we do, it seems like people are good at it, but when it comes to actually being the board members themselves, might struggle.
Yeah.
So maybe connecting that somehow would be good.
That is so true, Eileen, and I will tell you from years of experience, that is such a constant theme, and you're not alone. And I think that's why these networking calls can be so valuable. Is in terms of us being able to relate to that way, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And often in the group, all it takes is that one person who's that spark plug that will keep things going. And it sounds like both of you are involved in that way, which is great. But yeah, folks are not always good at being a board member or kind of practicing what we preach. And there's a great acronym that Rob Jackson used when we had our hybrid conference in September. It's do what you say you will do.
Yeah.
It's a disease. Just like, I think some people have that gene that they just got it or they don't, and some people just, I don't know what it is, but how the world is, I guess. So great feedback, and thank you very much, Eileen. I really appreciate that positive feedback about the topic that we had in September. So I've got just a few announcements for our live members. Our board elections open November 7th, and if you go onto our web page, if you click on that that should work. Yep, we've got our new slate, and so we're really excited that we'll be bringing in someone from Dallas area, Carmeet, who is the executive director for MAVA in Minnesota, and then Megan Holland. Maybe you know her, Melissa, I don't know. She's from Illinois, and it sounds like she's pretty local to Chicago. It's a small world. Well, I thought I'd ask sometimes. You never know. And so those elections start on November 7th, and so all of our members will get an email to vote for that ballot. And then we also have our incoming executive committee and officers for next year, too. So very excited about this leadership team and the direction that we're going to go. Oh, thank you. That's another great idea, Eileen. I'm going to write that down. Strategic planning or annual planning for your group. And we've been doing a lot of that at Alive as well. So I've been looking at some really interesting articles. I'm going to write that down. Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, let me go back to the announcements. And then our annual meeting is December 7th. So we'll have a little presentation about, what we've done this year, what our plans for next year, announce our new board members. I'm assuming usually the slate goes through fine. We've also rewritten our bylaws. Oh, and Jason. Oh, I'm so excited he's going to be our new president, Melissa. Can't tell you how excited I am. But we'll have our annual meeting, and then we've also changed our bylaws just to update the language. No big changes, but also be voting on that. We've got a webinar which is discounted for our members. It's called Working with Large Groups, and it's next week, November 10th, and it'll be directed by Beth Whitmire. She's our board president, and Beth currently works at Give Kids the World in Florida, in Orlando area, and it's a place where all those Make-A-Wish organizations, if the kids want to meet Harry Potter or Mickey Mouse as part of their wish, then this is a campus where they can go and stay for free for a week. It's a wonderful organization. They have a $20 million annual budget, and Beth manages about 1,600 volunteer shifts a week, and including a lot of corporate groups. Who, HP has their annual conference, and the meeting planner will call and say, well, we'd like to have 250 people come over and do a service project. Can you help us out? And we'd like to come tomorrow afternoon. So Beth is like, yeah, come on over, and she's going to share how she does that. But she's also got unique experience, which just amazes me. And of course, somebody is out there doing those things. But she's also managed a volunteer program for the Super Bowl, for the World Cup Olympics, and for the World Cup soccer match, and for the Salt Lake City Winter Olympics. So she's got some fantastic tips and experience to share. So I would encourage, if you're interested in that, to sign up, and you can find that out on our website too, and I'll be sending out more information. And then, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she really got into it. Her background is really fascinating, but the way she got into those things, I've heard the story. So yeah, please, if you could come, that'd be fantastic. Let's see, and then our partner Volunteer Pro, they are doing the Volunteer Management Progress Survey That ends November 18th. And you can go to volunteerpro.com and find out about that survey. We also sent an email to our members not too long ago about that. And then we're hoping to have the group member roundtable date in December available for everybody. So we're really hoping that we'll get that all knocked down and you can sign up in advance and plan on it, and we can expand this too. Oh yeah, Melissa, that is open to the public. I'll tell you that it's $20 for live members and $40 for the general public. But I really think the presentation will be, worthwhile for folks. So yes, please feel free to promote, Melissa. Thank you. And I think I've got one more slide. And we're going to be ending a little bit early, but usually for most people that is okay. So good to talk with you, Eileen and Melissa. And I just am so pleased that Alive is able to offer this to you, that, we have this networking together. I mean, where else could you talk with your peers? And here we are, Reno, Virginia, and outside of Detroit, let's see, Melissa told me, and I forgot the name of the town, and that's a big deal, right? Melissa is Royal Oak. And I mean, it's just so great that we can connect and, be able to share these things with each other. That's what it's all about. So our website, of course, volunteerlive.org, my email, and if you've got any other questions or ideas, or if you want to follow up about something we talked about today, I'm usually on email every day and we respond as soon as I can, unless we're on travel. We'll be heading to Las Vegas in a couple of days and be kind of wintering over there, like I said. So, and this is great. And Melissa, thank you for the feedback. She says, I feel our group is on the verge of a transition to more formal. And it's certainly, if there's some way that we can help with that, let's talk, Melissa, because we are, like I said, we're developing some tools to be able to help people. And then, of course, from our website that you can see that we have the links right on our page, for, oh, look, this is also new. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn. We don't have anything on YouTube yet, but content is coming. As soon as yours truly is figuring out some video things. Yes.
I do have a question.
Sure.
This may not be possible or the best idea, but a question. So when we have one of our quarterly meetings, would someone from Alive be able to do something like this to talk about what Alive is and the benefits of membership and things like that?
Yes, if we have an Alive, if we have an Alive member in the area, we definitely would be able to send them. And so it's just about if you would like to send me an email with a date,
sure.
Couple 3-4 weeks notice would be fantastic, of course.
Yeah, or not even in person necessarily, just like this, a webinar or something, or something.
Oh yeah,
would work as well.
Yeah, email me directly because I'm totally happy to do that. One of the things we're considering doing for next year too for our group members is offering a free webinar to our group members for your group. So we would take one of these meeting topics that we've talked about, and if one of our board members has expertise, then we would do, like I said, that webinar for your group as a member benefit. So we're still getting our heads around that and developing that, but I'm pretty sure that'll be a benefit for group members in 2017. So I'll keep you posted on that, as they say. But if there's interest, the feedback is really helpful because I have these ideas, and the committee we have these ideas, and I think in the middle of the night, and then I think, well, what if nobody likes that? But it's always good to get that positive feedback. So thank you. So I will put this up again and just wish you all a happy holiday coming into that season. It's going to be January 2nd before we know it. But hopefully we'll see you at one of the webinars or the annual meeting, and I'm always just an email or a phone call away. And even if you just want to call me, I'm not afraid to put my phone number out there.
Thank you so much.
Feel free. And don't worry about time zones. Oh, great. Thanks, Melissa. I'm going to write that down too. So wonderful. Eileen and Melissa, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. And we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.